Oh, the transitions. How much fun. Well, we talked about this. We're going to find out how many people actually join us for math because we made the whole thing yet last week that we're going to talk about math and we're going to see how many show up.
Well,
So,
it's money math though, and
yeah, it's important math.
that can be fun math.
Oh, well, it's fun to me. So, what are we talking about today?
Taxes. No, I'm kidding.
Not taxes. No, we're never going to talk about taxes.
Stay with us, people.
Yeah, we're not talking about taxes. But we are going to talk about the one marketing stat that every single business ought to know about. I mean, this is really a critical stat that you need to know. It's just one of those things that, hey, I don't know who showed up, but put a comment in because thank you very much for being here. You're somebody that's going to learn some great stuff today. That's awesome. So here we go, because really, this is another way of putting this. How many customers can I afford to lose to stay in business long term? Oh, all of a sudden, doesn't that change? Totally changes the paradigm because now we're not talking about how many, how much a lifetime customer lifetime value is. We're now talking about, can I afford to stay in business if I lose X amount of customers? Interesting turn. Oh, so what is that all important marketing number that's in my business apparently teetering on? I like this. I wish I had a drum roll. Well, we have a special guest today that we're going to bring on and talk all about the numbers. Why did we get this person in? Because I will tell you, he's one of my favorite people to talk to when it comes to these critical things that you need to know in your business. So welcome to Spark Live, Chuck Roydhouse. Mr. Roydhouse, how are you doing today?
Man, I am fine as frog hair. How are you guys? And thank you for having me.
Glad to have you, Chuck.
We are glad to have you. Well, this is one of the things that people a lot of times get in business and they just go, sell, pay the bills. And as long as, in their checkbook or QuickBooks or whatever, as long as they've got a little bit more coming in than what they got going out, they feel like they're successful. Okay. So I want to just stick with marketing a little bit and talk about why this number is so critical for figuring out the marketing piece. So, what is that all important marketing number that your business is apparently sitting on? Pretty simple: the customer lifetime value. So, Chuck, how long? 30 some odd years in the chimney industry?
30 years in chimney, 40 years in small business total.
Yeah, because you ran a lawn care business.
Yeah, lawn and landscaping. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about when you think about the customer lifetime value, how do you explain that to people?
So I've had a lot of my clients ask me, what's the big deal about it? Why do you want to have repeat business? Why did Sooty Bob talk about, notches in the belt and, being able to keep people and do the forward scheduling? And I mean, that was stuff that he was talking about, in, the mid 80s, at least, when I was doing my research. I came into the industry about 1990, and I was a diehard follower of his. I used to get the tapes mailed to me that he used to send, and before that, it was a paper newsletter. And the thing that people lose sight of, even when you've sold everything to somebody, if you go out and you hit the right person and you build that trust and you build the rapport with them and they believe everything you say and you sell them every inside and outside repair, those customers still have a value. A lot of people seem to think they're no good anymore. They're just going to be turning dollars by coming out every year to reservice them with, an inspection and or sweeping an inspection. But there's more to that. So, the definition is of, the lifetime value. It's a projection of the income from a customer over that lifetime. And a lifetime is considered about 20 years. It can be as much as 25. The reason why you want to know about that is, how much money do you market and invest to acquire customers and to retain them? And the only way to know that is by tracking this information. And that's one of the things that I talk about all the time is, and you guys do too, is why it's to track. But I think sometimes saying you have to track everything loses its oomph, just like when we hear people use the platitudes of know your numbers. It becomes wah, 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 wah. We hear it everywhere, but I don't think people really know what that means. So this kind of goes into knowing your numbers and knowing who your right customer is. So, if you know the numbers, it drives the marketing of what you should spend and gives you the return on investment you need. And it identifies the best customer that you want to keep. And statistics show that satisfied customers spend much more.
Yeah, right.
So that's why you want to keep it that way. So the point is, if you go out and you sell everybody the liner, the exterior repairs, the outside mount cap, and everything's hunky-dory, yeah, you might for the next 5 to 10 years go back and just do your basic inspection and or sweeping or some minor adjustments, but you maintain that market share. You stay in as part of their service provider team, just like the HVAC company that they probably have a contract with, or if they're an oil company, where I lived in the Mid-Atlantic, we burned number 2 fuel oil in the boiler, and we had a gold policy for people to come out, to tune up the furnace or the boiler once a year. And, we got discounts if parts needed to be done. And then we got our fuel oil at a cheaper cost. So there was a reason why you would want to grasp that. So an oil company then could project, okay, I've got so many gold customers signed up. I know by degree days how much oil each home's going to burn in a given year. So then I can set my buying for that, and I can buy at my best rate. And if they would have done that this year, as they do in January, that's when they renew. They send out the renewals usually after Thanksgiving, and they're due by January 1. Mm-hmm. And they would have bought their oil, I'm just going to say at $3 a gallon, and I'm locked in at maybe $3.20 a gallon. I'm laughing all the way to the bank. The people that procrastinated and didn't sign up for that, God knows what they're going to be paying in October. It could be $5 a gallon for number 2 fuel oil. So in the chimney industry, if we take a page out of their book and start to think about service policies and knowing how to sell them to the right customer and determining what that number is of what we can afford to do as far as spending marketing dollars to find those people. And then once we find them, we want to capture them and keep them. Right. And how do you keep them? Well, you keep them by obviously excellent service and follow through and being trustworthy, all the normal sales techniques. But even after everything's sold, you're still selling yourself as I'm your guy. I want to come out every year. I want to make sure that now that you've made this sizable investment of $3,500 to $25,000 of repairs, let's make sure this doesn't get ahead of us. So how can I do that as a service business? Well, I want to be there every year. I want to make sure you don't forget who you called to come out, and you don't even have to think, I'm going to schedule this for you, and we're going to give you a 30-day notice. And if it's not a good day, we can massage it and move it a little bit. It makes it very easy for people to work with you.
Well, let's talk real quick about let's do some math, because I think before we can get to the point of convincing somebody watching that they need to be doing something like service contracts in order to retain those customers over a lifetime, we've got to convince them that a customer is worth a lot of money to them over a lifetime, and maybe they've never considered that. So it might be good to just stop here, Taylor, and
yeah. So I'm going to do that because I'm
how to figure out what your customer lifetime value is.
Yeah, this is exactly right, Lou. We throw out numbers. Know your numbers. Know your numbers. So we're not, and we don't tell you why you need to know the numbers, and we don't tell you how to get the numbers. But we're fixing to do that. So hold on just a second, because we're getting into that. So basically what happens is the average ticket is the very first thing you have to have. How do you factor your average sale? It's real easy. Whatever revenue you bring in, divide that by how many customers you have. That is your average ticket. It's
how many customers you served during that revenue period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing you have to have. And that's an easy number. A lot of people don't understand. You just take your total revenue, divide it by your total customers, and that gives you your average ticket. So once you have that average ticket, then here's the next thing that has to happen. You've got to figure out how long the average customer stays with you. So, some people just ballpark it. Oh, I think maybe 5 years. I think maybe this. But we've got, so Carter, talk about this a minute, because how can people using their databases find this out?
Well, just going back and looking through invoices, that's, running. There's several reports that you can pull. QuickBooks allows you to pull reports that show you, from the start of the company. If you've used QuickBooks, back that far, it'll show you how many years every customer's been with you. It's a little bit, I'm not sure. I can't really speak to exactly how to set that up, so I won't go into the how-to on that, but I know it's possible. And so you can start to see the average, out of all of your customers. Again, it's one of those things of add up all of the years and divide by the number of customers, and you end up with the average customer.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Years.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you take those totals, divide them out. So here's kind of what it looks like. So, and I did the math to make it really easy. Okay, if you brought in $1 million and you have 1,000 customers, all right, then your average ticket is $1,000. That's just taking $1 million, divided by how many customers your total customers are. Your average ticket's $1,000. Then you take your average ticket, and let's say you've looked at how many people have been with you. Chuck was in the business for 30 years. We have some people in business as long as 45 years. So if they've got documented proof that somebody's been with them 45 years and you just started the next year, if you add up all the years, divide it by all your customers over those years, you're going to get how many years it is. So in this example, again, I stayed with tens just because it's easy. Your average ticket, $1,000. Been with them 10 years, $10,000 is your customer lifetime value. Now, here's the real thing. Let me pull this text I got up from Jerry Eisenhower. I don't think he's on today, but he sent me something interesting about Sooty Bob Daniels. Compiled this in the 80s, that the average lifetime value of a chimney customer in the mid-80s, Sooty Bob concluded, was $33,000 if they were properly cared for and serviced. So $33,000 is your average ticket in the 80s. So
and that in constant dollars, that's probably at least double that right now.
Yeah. So here's one of the things I want people to understand, because one of the things that I get a lot is, I can only spend $10 to acquire a customer. And I'm always going, you only can spend $10 to acquire a customer, and yet your average ticket is, and they're like, maybe $3,000. And it's like they're not understanding. They're looking at it on a year basis, maybe that might be the average that they bring in for the year or the past year, but they're not looking at the broader scope of the entire lifetime of a customer, because that changes the math substantially. If you're looking at a lifetime value of $2,000 opposed to a lifetime value of, let's just stay with the 80s, $33,000, then all of a sudden you actually can spend more money and should be spending more money to bring in business if you need it. I mean, Chuck, I'm all ears to see if you think I'm wrong.
No, no, you're definitely right. You know, studies show that it costs 15 times more to acquire a customer than it is to retain one.
Yeah. And I love the example that you gave because, if you're going and servicing, doing a service business, and you have that money coming in year after year after year, and you can count on that money, then that is stability of a business. That keeps your business from doing the hills and valleys and hills and valleys to really kind of just this level off piece. And when your business is level, on an operations side of it, now you can make better decisions. So talk a little bit about customer lifetime value, not just, we've talked about it from the marketing, but from the operations point of view.
So the way that I like to apply it, you know, kind of dovetailing to what you said, is if you have the steady income stream coming in, you balance things out, you make yourself calmer, the employees are calmer because there's no chance of work slowdowns or layoffs, and then you funnel these people into whatever your slowest time would be.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you can convert these people to get onto a monthly payment plan in doing this by evening out your income stream throughout the year, then you always have a constant dollar amount coming in come hell or high water. So you don't have to worry about anything. But at the same time, again, you funnel everything into where you want to schedule these people. Like we would typically slow down when I related to when schools let out in Maryland. Usually that was around the middle of June, and we would kind of slow down until usually about the middle to the end of July, because everybody was getting used to the new, rigmarole of what they were going to do, the new scheduling, and then they were trying to get their vacations in and going to the beach, things like that. Because, we were right on the Chesapeake Bay and we were 2 hours away from Ocean City. And then, of course, we had the mountains and another 2 hour direction. So you could do so much different vacation things. That being said, they would squash all that stuff in, or the kids were going to summer camp and they didn't know what the scheduling was going to be. So that's when we would schedule our repeat customers, as I called them back then. And the idea was there was some really neat things that if you understood how to route these, how to travel them, even though the guys might originally be a little disappointed that, oh, I'm going to Mrs. Smith and, we sold her $15,000 worth of stuff a year and a half ago. I know I'm just going to go inspect her or sweep and inspect her. Well, what you don't understand is that's keeping them busy. We're staying in their face. They're not finding somebody else. It has dollars coming in. It's keeping us stable. If the bank ever had to look at income because we wanted to get a loan, we're showing we have a stable income all the time. And then on top of all that, how do we know that in 2 years' time, when we did the heat shield lighting system in the lady's fireplace, she no longer wants to deal with wood. Her husband has now had a stroke and she wants a gas fireplace insert installed. Guess who she's going to go to? Who's her trusted partner? Who's in her home every year? And following through with everything they said, because when we repaired the crown and came back, because for whatever reason the corner peeled up, it was covered in what we took care of, and we're here to help. Yeah. So when you do all those things, all your costs start to shrink, and you basically start to scale your business. You don't have to be this huge IBM or Westinghouse or anybody else to scale a business, or a Subway or a McDonald's. You can do it on a micro scale. It's all in your mind of how you do it.
One of the marketing axioms that research, I don't remember the I'll have to look and find it, but it talked about referrals as a source of business and when do referrals occur. And what they found is that referrals to your business from other satisfied customers happen usually around the last time that you serviced them. So, in other words, leading up to an appointment and then some weeks after the appointment, during that period is the most likely time for you to get a referral. Outside of that window, it's a lot less likely that you'll get that referral. So just staying connected with customers, doing the sweep and inspection, even though it may not be your most profitable part of your business, it puts you in the way of customers who then are more likely to refer you to the bigger ticket items during during that time frame around which you're serving them. So that's another brilliant reason for continuing to consider every customer that you serve somebody that you want to maximize customer lifetime value for.
So, and I don't know if Lou is still on here, but Lou, did that answer the question in a way that was understandable? That this particular set of numbers, having your average, whoever your average is, to figure out your lifetime value, the customer lifetime value. I don't know if you're on there. I know people come in and out a lot of times on here. But if that answered your question, I'd just like to know. And the thing about these numbers, Chuck, that I think a lot of people don't understand. Okay, thanks, Lou. He said, yeah, great. Is that, we numbers can be used in a lot of different ways. So you and I are kind of math nerds, and we know that. We've talked about that. And so many times people don't know how to take the numbers and kind of squish them one way and squish them another, and figure out this and figure out that and turn them upside down and flip them over and do some of the things until you see kind of the value and where it works. So I totally disagree most of the time when people say know your numbers, and then they start this whole long list of what they need to know. Okay. Because people who don't do math like you and I, they don't like dealing with them. Mm-mm. So is this something that Roydhouse Effect actually does? Do you go in and help people kind of look at their numbers, evaluate their numbers, figure out, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then create a plan? Or how do you use numbers in your practice right now?
So one of the things I will do for a client is when we do a business analysis, we look at what all their different finances are, and we ask them, what do they know? What do they think the key performance indicators are, KPIs? And then, we kind of show them on site. I'll go over, no, these are what you want to focus on, these 3, 4, 5 things. And then if they really don't know, or they're obviously skewed on what they should be charging per hour per man to be profitable, I have a program that I developed with, I took something that was really good, worked with a CPA, and I have a computer engineer at my disposal, and which is my son. And I came up with my own program. And basically, I will ask you for about 8 to 10 pieces of information. I plug that into the program, and then I tell you, based on what your goal is, of what you want, what to charge per hour per man to meet those goals. So those goals would be, we know what all your overhead is. We calculate what your salary is, which is not part of your profit, and then what the profit is that you want out of your company. Mm-hmm. Which in today's market for service businesses, you should be shooting for 20%. Right. That's why the example that I gave on the post yesterday was, if you follow these numbers, and even what I'm telling you looks a little high or skewed, or you don't have a lot of, belief in what I'm saying, even if you take a 60% discount, cut it down to 40%, you're still putting $2 million for a 3-truck operation to your bottom line, which at 20% is the same as doing $1 million more business. And being realistic, not too many of us grow by $1 million a year each year. And this is a much easier way to do it. Now, I didn't set that premise up to say don't grow. I think everybody should grow to the point that they want to be. I'm saying if you want to grow, this is a way to fund the growth. Growth is not free, and you have to do the right kind of marketing, and that becomes an investment. So where do you get the investment dollars? Well, we squeeze every drop of money out of that stone that we can, take that $200,000 if that's the number, and then we invest that in identifying who is the right client, what is the neighborhood, the zip code, what is the best marketing tool to reach them? Is it text? Is it direct mail? Is it email? Is it follow up? Whatever that is. And then that's how we grow our business. This is what is going to be the fuel that you get, and it's right at your disposal. It's basically free as
Right.
long as you have the time to investigate it. So, yeah. And then we can come up with a budget based on that. Most people don't like doing budgets. We can do a budget, but more importantly, what I tell people is the first number you need to know is what is it costing you to operate per hour per man. And if you're not near that number, you're slowly going broke.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. Well, and I just wanted to touch on that because I mean we talk about numbers, and I look at numbers really in just clear marketing terms, uh, and I love the fact that when you know that you're making X amount of profit, then you also can look at what you need to. If you want to grow, you can factor in what you need to spend and how much you can spend in order to meet growth goals. So, that's kind of where I live in the marketing world. But there are a lot of other things that you help people with outside of just that. And I wanted to give you a chance to touch on that.
Yeah, because what you just said is it's a way, I know I kind of alluded to it and you kind of alluded to it. I call it fantasy funding. So in other words, we get you straight, whatever that means to
Yeah.
whoever you are. But then you tell me this is where I want to be, and this
Yeah.
is where I want to be. Might be growth, or it might be setting yourself up as an exit plan to retire.
Right.
And we need to do that 5 years into the future to plan this. And we need to do a planning for that. So I do exit planning, I do sales training, I do a lot of different things. It's all on a very excellent website that I have, roydhouseeffect.com.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, guess who does that? So, what you need to think about is, okay, not everybody needs to have 20 trucks and 50 employees or whatever. It depends on what is going to satisfy your need. And some people are happy being a one-man band. There's some people that want 2 or 3 trucks. They don't want any more chaos than that or noise, or they don't want to go through what I call the purgatory, of that 5 to 10 truck. When you get over 10, then you start getting back to the sweet spot. And there's no guarantee you're going to get out of purgatory. And maybe if you're in the position where you're 55 to 65 years old, you're not willing to take that gamble. So we can quantify what that is. So the point of it is we get you prepared to do whatever it is, leap to the next rung or stay profitable so you are marketable to sell.
And I tell people too in marketing, when people call me and say, well, this is what I want and this is where I'm at. And I've had people call and say, where I'm at right now, I am good. I just need somebody to build a website. Well, that's a totally different thing than if you're going to grow. How much you're going to grow, how much you want to, we do the same thing because you can over market a company and tank them. And we are very well aware of that. I mean, we have had years that we've had people call us and say, please stop. And I'm like, well, some things I can't stop, and there are other things I can't stop. So, that's just the nature of marketing. So I really do understand that. And we're right at about 30 minutes. So Carter, do you have anything else to add?
Well, I love the discussion today that when you understand what your customer lifetime value is, then a lot of the other things about your business start to really come into sharp relief. You start to really see what else you can do or where you can make changes to maximize for your goals. So maybe your goal really isn't to grow, beyond the 1 or 2 trucks you're running now, but when you know your customer lifetime value, now you can start having conversations about, like Chuck was saying, how do you become profitable at 1 or 2 trucks with the customer profile that you have and, the customer lifetime value that you're able to achieve? How do you increase that customer lifetime value? That's, all of those things. I mean, that one number serves as a jumping off point to really understand your business in some key ways. So I thought it was a great conversation.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Renee, thank you so much for the like. I forgot to ask everybody for likes and hearts today because I know for whatever reason Facebook likes it, so we're going to ask. So Renee, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And guys, just to let you know that Spark Live can also be found as a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, or your favorite player. Next week, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about this is driving me crazy. We're not
Do
going
it
to talk
again.
about that. For whatever reason, this slide keeps reverting back to the next one. So I'm going to hide that one, and we're going to talk about Chuck. So here is Chuck's phone number, Roydhouse Effect, 410-940-8896. And so, Carter, real quick, go look and tell me what we're going to talk about next week.
Next week, we're talking about the 3 options that your customers are dying for you to provide.
Oh, this is going to be fun. Yeah, everybody needs to be on this one next week too. And if you want to find Chuck Roydhouse, just get him at chuck@roydhouseeffect.com. His website is roydhouseeffect.com. So we appreciate everybody being here. Hope you guys have a great week, and we shall see you soon.
Thanks. Be safe.
Thanks, Chuck.